So last time I talked about true honesty and what that entails. And, every time I have that talk, I also like to follow up that I wasn't saying that, uh, you know, you should not be in the truth. Like, oh, sometimes you should be honest, sometimes you should not. And that's actually not the point of the talk I was making. It's actually very easy to actually understand it that way because oftentimes we tie strategies on how to get to the truth itself. And what I was trying to say is that the best way to get to the truth is actually through our needs. Because the thing that is always true are principles, if we really think about it. Principles are always true. Such as attention brings order is actually one of our principles. And attention brings order is basically whatever you bring your attention to, the order starts forming. And dust gathers into mountain is another example. And that means that dust is always falling. And then, if you gather dust, then eventually it becomes a mountain. And what's actually true is that it's always gathering. Dust is always gathering. There's never a moment where dust is not gathering. But then if you actually bring it into a specific area, then you can actually gather more. And so the principles are always the same. Like another principle is there's nothing to do, only to see. And what that really means is that if you're present in that moment, you can see what the moment needs from you. And so you can see what's relevant and what's not. And if you try and do something, then it actually distracts you from the moment and you actually miss what you're supposed to do. And so there's nothing to do, only to see, right? And then there's a principle that's at the opposite side of that. Once you see what you need to do, then take the next step, no more, no less, and the next step will be revealed to you. And the next step will be revealed to you is actually tied back to the first principle, which is there's nothing to do, only to see. And once you see, then again you take the next step, which is a principle of, one thing at a time, right? That you can only really do one thing at a time. But as you can see, there's the truth, and then you actually kind of, if there's only like the one truth, if there's truth, then you can describe different aspects of the same truth. And I oftentimes talk about that from a perspective of the elephant. You're in a dark room and you can't really see the elephant, but you get to touch it. And one person is in the front of the elephant and says, oh, wow, I feel like something really long and I feel some really sharp pointy things. And one person standing at the side of the elephant says, nope, I don't know what you're talking about. It's all broad, it's really flat. And then there's a guy standing at the back of the elephant and says, I don't know what you guys are smoking, but it's like, it stinks and it's terrible here. And once in a while I get dumped on. And so same reality, same truth, but very different experiences, right? And so I tell people that principles are always the same. It's kind of like principles are like the laws of nature, the laws upon which the universe is operating. And so they're always true, of course. It's kind of like it's not like gravity, stops working at some times, and then the electromagnetic force starts activating, and then strong force comes next, and weak force comes next, and so on. There's no such sequence. They're always acting, and if any one of these things were to stop working, then we'd be in trouble. So principles are that which is an action that we can notice about the present moment or about the universe, or about when I said present moment, I just realized I need to actually properly define the present moment. The present moment, when we say that, is actually not from a time perspective. Time is an idea, like in this moment. But when I say the present moment, what I mean is that the moment that you get to access, which is all eternity, whatever that means, because that's just a language, meaning as in the time-space continuum is probably actually a better way to say it, because if you're here, then the past history and the future is all present in this moment, meaning as in you can tell that whatever happened in the past is affecting what's going on right now, and whatever action you're going to take is going to affect the future. You can see that, you're present with that. And just being caught up in this present is not the same thing as really being present. If you're present, there is no sense of past, present, and future. They're all present here. And I want to say the real sense of presence is a lot closer. It's actually the same as what science describes through observation, that there is no such thing as the past, the present, and the future. It's just a space-time continuum. And so in that same sense, when you're really present, you come into that. The only time that doesn't happen is when you're caught up in your thoughts and you pass this one thing, this present moment is one thing, and then you make the future about something else. And because you're not present with what is actually happening, that which was, is, and is to come, because you're not present with that, you are out of reality. And so to be in the truth is to be in reality and to be able to notice what really is relevant, what is always true, what is true regardless of your sense of reality. Now, I'd like to say when most people talk about reality, they're talking about the sense of reality, meaning something like what actually happens. But let's say, for instance, what is true is beyond your sense of reality, there's something that's true beyond that, right? So when we say reality, typically we're talking about what's practical or what's not practical. And so I want to distinguish that. So if you are in true reality, meaning as in if you are in the sense of what works and what doesn't, and you can perceive even past beyond that as to what makes it work and what doesn't, you'll start realizing, that's what truth is. It's something that's always true. So it's something that's always in operation. It never changes. It's a constant, if you will. And so that concept, I think, is actually really powerful, because then we get to something that's always in operation or always just is. And something that just always is how truth was defined when I was learning it within the spiritual practices that I learned. I think it's like it's helpful definition. It helps us bring some better reality into it. And so now, for an example, if I just make this distinction between reality and truth, in reality, Newton's laws of physics works really great with the concept of gravity and how that works. But then we understand that when it comes to very specific instances, when it comes to the space of light, those laws stop working. And so we start realizing, there's a better description for reality that accounts for these exceptions that's always true. And so when we get into the theory of relativity, then we start realizing, or the general theory of relativity that explains Newton's theory plus when things are going at the speed of light. And so that is something that's, if you will, closer to the truth. Now, these are theories, meaning as in they're models of how we understand the world. So that in itself is even not the truth, but it's just how we come up. It's the models that we come up with in order to be able to understand reality a little better from something that's always true. So these are just models to be able to understand or come into contact a little better. And principles are that which allows us to experience something that's always true. And so principles are from a perspective of how we get to experience life, how we get to navigate life, something that we can follow that allows us to get more consistent results, right? And so if we focus on doing, we miss being present with what's going on. That's actually the reality. It's just how we're created. And so if we're present with what's going on, out of that presence, naturally what we need to do comes out. And if I tie that, as I was talking about being present, and I was tying that to the concept of your needs, so if you are present with your needs, you notice more of what needs to be done in that moment. It's kind of actually what connects you to the principles. So it's actually what connects you to reality. So our needs is actually what connects us to reality. And that's actually a very important concept, because if you follow your need, then the chances are you're going to be in truth versus not. And so I just wanted to clarify this concept because otherwise it can sound like I was saying that you should not be in the truth or you should obscure the truth and things like that by following your need selfishly. And there can never be in contention. So hopefully that helped explain some of these seeming discrepancies. Thank you.